Hi, I'm Jamie Bush, an interior designer based in Los Angeles. Um,
Hey, hi, Jamie. How are you?
good, good. Nice to see you, Yuri.
It's been some time. What, 2 years now? I think last time we got together.
Yeah, in Paris. It has been 2 years. I know it's coming up again, which is crazy.
I I know it's crazy how time flies by, but it was a wonderful evening. We're so thrilled to have you.
Thank you.
So how have you been?
Things are good. Knock on wood, we've been super busy, and I don't know. It seems strange to be with so much like turbulence in the world to be like grounded and focused on design and fortunate to still be working on some great projects and the phone still ringing, which is amazing because you never know. It's like, but yeah, we've been very, very fortunate with some great projects this year. So it's good.
That's great. And it is a funny thing, right? Because we can't really not notice what's going on around us in the
Yeah,
world, how
yeah,
crazy things are. And we always say, oh, it's worse than ever. But the world has always been a chaotic place, but it's been pretty much so the last few years.
yeah,
But it's still being able to, maybe cancel a little bit of the noise and be able to focus, being able something to put your energy towards to it and work still happening, still busy. It's the double-edged sword, right? You're glad that you have work in great projects to collaborate, but at the same time, there's a whole world that um, they need so much more than
yeah.
what we can provide at the moment.
No, I know. I think it's strange because we're not deaf, obviously, upon things that are happening, and especially with people in the studio, it's difficult sometimes to focus. But we try to remain local, if that makes sense, where we
Yeah.
can try to affect the things that we're able to in a positive direction. So yeah, it's a crazy time, and I think with uh, any of service providers, which we find ourselves one of. It's uh, it's a customer service based industry, so it feels temperamental in the sense that things can change in an instant, And we've had projects cancel, put on hold. There's uncertainty, so we sort of are sensitive to that and try to be nimble. But fortunately, we have still enough work and enough projects to keep us busy, which is great.
Beautiful projects for sure. You definitely has built a reputation, you and your firm do doing outstanding work. But the interesting thing, and I want to kind of touch you base on this, you are based in LA, even though you work all around the world. LA is home for you. And I want to hear your perspective because we were in LA for 10 years, many, many years ago. And since 2020, everybody has told me that LA is not quite the same. It hasn't been quite the same.
Yeah,
The things are getting better perhaps at this point, but not quite because, of course, we have the COVID, we have the fires. There's so many things we're just compounding
yeah.
over the last few years. Tell me what's for you right now feels like to be in LA. What does the spirit look like with the energy and so on?
It's true. I've been in LA for 30 years. So I came in 94. I'm from New York originally, but I've been, it's my home. But 30 years is a long time. I've seen a huge transformation of the city. And for me, up until recently, LA has just been getting better and better and better. And I don't know where the tipping point was. I think it's like you said, it's compounded. It's between COVID, the fires, with the economy, which is a result of COVID. There's a lot of things people think, oh, COVID's done, and then everybody's back to normal. And there's so many industries and businesses that have these sort of residual effects. A perfect example are restaurants. And I know that
Mhm.
seems strange and small, but it's a huge component of the dynamic in LA. And there's so many restaurateurs that are going out of business, galleries that are closing, restaurateurs going out of business, some places opening. So it's not like dire and the city is failing, but that compounded with, you know, the housing crisis and homeless, and and I have to say, from an aesthetic point of view, you know, there it's such a huge city, and so to manage and to have sort of a tree program or street sweeping or all these things that I think affect the physical environment, which I think is more than just being beautified. It's the space that you live in that has compounded, and I think there's a transition period that LA is going through right now, which is difficult. It's not the energy that it has been, and the positivity that I feel like we've been sort of watching grow over the years and years and years. It's taken, I think, a step back, and for all of those reasons. And I think it's not a black or white thing. I'm still in love with the city. I think it still has incredible opportunities, amazing people, such a diverse population and cultures. But I don't know. It's not, you know, it's a challenging place right now. We have a lot of work in LA. We have a lot of work elsewhere in the country, and we're doing some work overseas. So we're sort of traveling a lot and being in a lot of different environments. But it's not as positive as it has been in the past, I would say.
Yeah, no, it's something that I keep hearing. We just hope that, you know, just enough moving forward, things will be able to get back to some great days. That I just remembered not 10, 15 years ago how uh, the whole driving community was so strong, and things were going so well. There's so
Hmm.
many things happening,
Yeah,
but again, that's a circle of life. Things will go up and down. I think we just have to adjust as the best way possible.
yeah.
But talk about traveling and works in different cities. Is there any other city right now that kind of re-energizes you that you're looking forward to go, like even for a project or for? I mean, I was gonna say vacation, but I highly doubt it. You takes vacation, but
Yeah.
there you go. Anything that feels like the thing that you're missing that you can find somewhere else.
But I think two different aspects. You know, we're doing some work overseas, so we're doing work in Finland and in London. We just started a new project in London, so I've been spending a little time there, and I have to say I love London, and it's a city I haven't spent a ton of time with. I've traveled there and visited as a tourist, but but it's interesting because from an outsider, it's miraculous, it's sophisticated and beautiful, but they're financially going through sort of difficulties as well. So, like, you know, you look at Paris right now, they're having strikes. London's having strikes. You know, there's strife everywhere. But for me, from an outsider, London's been sort of just a joy to sort of discover and get to know, and the people and the design community there. So that's been great. And on a flip side, we are doing work in more rural settings, which I crave. I just I crave to be in nature and have sort of the absence of city lights and chaos and energy. So we just finished some remote cabins in Canada on a lake, which was sort of beautiful to spend time with, and we're doing a project in Santa Fe, on vacant land in a beautiful setting overlooking mountains. And so to have that dichotomy of like doing projects in cities that are bustling, that are interesting and dynamic, and then very rural, sort of bucolic settings, it's that's been a joy for us, just to have that duality and get to visit these places and learn about them, which is great.
That's phenomenal. Have the opportunity to do a little bit of both is always great. Um, Jamie, a quick question though. You have a great aesthetic and vision with your work, but if someone that doesn't know and walk into one of your projects, doesn't know it's yours, what would they know? What would it give it away to tell this is, a Jamie Bush project? What would it be?
Um, I think there's a sense of proportion. I know that sounds vague and abstract, but I think we play with proportion of scale jumps, of I think layered compositions and vignettes, and I think a playful juxtaposition of materials and forms. Matte surfaces against highly reflective surfaces, or uh, color plays. We really try to do this study of almost like Joseph Albers of like studying what different colors do to one another. It's difficult because more and more as we've grown and gotten older, we're doing more diverse projects. So we just finished a historic English Tudor house from the 20s, and we're working on like a rustic Mediterranean home and like a 90s sort of industrial loft and all of these sort of different types of things. And I like it when people don't know it's our work. Because the not to sound like overly modest or something, but I find it's interesting. I like history and we like historical styles, and to sort of do a deep dive into those, and with precedent analysis and really sort of studying sort of what's appropriate and how to contrast that. But I get a kick out of working on lots of different things, lots of different styles and aesthetics, and so I would hope maybe there's a little indication like what you're asking about of like composition and scale and proportion and a sort of playfulness with a lot of our work. But I don't know. I think it's interesting that people get surprised that they might see something coming up that we did it. I get a kick out of that. There's things coming up that I think will be surprising. So
But and then at the same time, sure, when they hear it's your guys' work, they're gonna be like, "Oh, I get it now,"
maybe,
right? They might be
hopefully,
able
I
to find.
suppose. Yeah, some nugget of that.
Yeah. You're saying that you have so many diversity in terms of work and styles and different levels. Is that something that's a firm you actually actively pursue to get as many as different projects possible style wise, or did just coming to you naturally?
I think it's all it's a combination. We're doing a hotel right now in New Orleans, and we were given the task to sort of come up with an aesthetic of what would be appropriate. It's a ground up hotel, so and it's difficult in New Orleans because there's so much great historic architecture, and you're competing with these other um, sort of lauded properties, and so. But we came up with an aesthetic which I'm obsessed with, and I've never really done a project like that. So we're doing this sort of 1930s sort of deco jazz age inspired aesthetic, which is appropriate for the architecture that's being sort of developed, but also tapping into that celebratory moment in history. And it's not a pastiche. We're not like replicating something that looks like it was built in 1930, but there's a nod to it and a sort of a deep dive into this aesthetic. And it was also an economic factor because we're doing a lot graphically. We didn't have a huge budget. So graphically, we're doing a lot of sort of bold gestural sort of moves in the hotel that are done with paint and carpet and things like that don't cost a lot of money. So that was another factor. But it's something like in that instance, we were given the task to come up with an aesthetic. And so that's something we haven't done before. But a lot of other projects, it does come naturally. We're luckily, as I've gotten older, our clientele has matured and we have a lot of repeat clients. So half of our work are repeat clients. And those clients tend to not repeat themselves. So we're doing
Mhm.
uh, for repeat clients, they like different environments. And so what's been great is that, like that log cabin we did for a repeat client, but we did a over the top glamorous house in Bel Air for them. So a totally different animal, but they have like dual personalities as well. So they like to sort of drop around. And for that same client, we were doing like this hippie pad for them in Malibu. So it's like a totally another, completely other animal as well. So that's, I guess maybe we attract those type of clients that are interested in lots of different aspects of design and periods in history. I don't know how, but I feel like I'm a student of history and studied architecture and art history, and so like maybe that attracts some of these clients. But fortunately, we're able to work on a lot of different things right now.
If you look at your style in general, would you say that it's more inherited or self-made?
Me personally,
Yeah.
inherited. The I I came from a very creative family on the East Coast that a lot of designers and painters and people that were in fashion and people that some people that had success, I guess critical success, and other people that were just making things. So like everybody in my family made things, furniture makers and potters and fashion people and photographers and painters and sculptors. And so I think I just grew up in that environment. It's like if your family's in police, they're all police officers. That's what So it fortunately it was in the creative sort of fields for me. But my whole family were collectors, are collectors, sort of obsessively so sometimes, not in a healthy way at times, and they're curious about the world, and even people that didn't have much means or money always had interesting places to live, and I don't know, just sort of made sort of something out of nothing, which I always respected. So I think it's inherited. I can't really take credit for that.
And at what age for you, it was very clear that you would follow this career path?
Well, I didn't think I'd study architecture. That was by chance. My mother thought, oh, I was good at math and I was obsessed with buildings and stuff, and so she suggested that, and I thought that was a terrible idea, just because it came from my mother. But I thought I was going to be an artist. I always it was just assumed I was going to be some type of artist, and I actually went to college at first studying fine arts, and then just by chance I went to a university that had an architecture program. This was Tulane in New Orleans, and I started hanging out with some friends that were in the architecture school, and it just clicked. It was, it's one of those things like in a movie, you get hit upside the head and you're like, your life changes. And it did for me. I just started hanging out at that school, and everything just aligned. And I transferred out of fine arts and into architecture, and my world opened up. It was just such a fantastic education, and it was really a design school, not so much of a trade school. You learn structures and all of the sort of mechanics going into what a building is, but it was really focused on design. And to go to architecture school in New Orleans, which is such a romantic city with such a lauded and appreciative history, city of history and architectural styles, was fantastic. And it's strange. It was really by chance, total fluke. Even going to that school was by chance. I never even planned to go to that school. It was the longest distance from my home on a ruler from of all the schools I got accepted into. So like sight unseen, I just went there. I thought like I'd be swimming in the Mississippi every day. I had no idea what that city was. And I just needed to get away. And but it was the best thing I ever did. Like so fun.
Do you believe in destiny, like in purpose? Were you meant to do this?
Hmm. I think I was. It's a good question. I've never thought of that. I do believe in a certain destiny. I think like meeting, you met your wife. Could you imagine meeting your wife? Like you can't plan things like that, like
Yeah.
so I do believe in a certain amount of destiny, and I think people are drawn to certain trades or callings for things, and it's not total altruism, but I do feel that I'm better at design than I would be as a nurse. I would not be a good nurse. My partner's a nurse. He's like an amazing nurse. I'm not made for that. Like so I feel like somehow things aligned and I sort of found my way. And I feel like I'm more qualified to do this job than I am something else, in a very sort of natural way. So, yeah, and we're still in business, so something's working.
Something's going right.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. No, it is true. Some things it will really quite make sense, and these things just align. You married. You mentioned meeting Meredith. I mean, we got married 21-year-old. We married for almost 18 years. So it's almost kind of stuff that like nobody can really get plans to be married at
No,
21-year-old
no, no.
anymore, right?
Yeah.
So
No, that's crazy. That's amazing.
yeah,
Hmm.
but I want to go back and talk to you a little bit about you're talking about your clients, how you have a lot of repeat clients and a lot of interesting people kind of gravitate towards your work. Do you feel often when you're trying to design something for a client, are you trying to perhaps reveal who they are or maybe protect them a little bit
Hmm.
from the world?
You know, um, the I think more and more our projects are taking longer, and we get to spend more and more time with these people. So it used to be we would do a project takes about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. We have multiple projects that are 5, 6 years, and I actually I have a meeting after this. It's going to be year 7 of a project that we're working on. Nobody's seen this house, but and I believe that when we go into a project with these longer term projects, especially, we talk about who they want to be, not just who they are now and what's going to function for them currently, but it really is planning for the future. Like who, not just like stepping into a different world,
Mhm.
but trying to understand, what the duration of this place is for them, talking about what happens when they're not around. Like we build some of these things and we almost, we don't dismiss the client, but we talk about what happens when they're not the steward of that home anymore. Like, are we building something to last for future generations? Because we try to do things to build to last. And I think the best homes are multi-generational homes that sort of like are passed down or are sort of stand the test of time. So we try to be specific to the needs of the clients, but we also try to look at a bigger view, potentially, if we have that chance of like what happens when we're all gone, you know, and will this house, doesn't have to appeal to everybody, but will this building, will this last? Are we putting the best details together and the quality? And is it something that isn't so specific that's going to be insane, that's not going to function for anybody else?
Yeah.
I think there's a responsibility that we have for that because we're only here for a short time. And this country is a lot younger, but you go to Europe and you see a building from 1472, and it's still there, and all those people who built that and occupied that building are gone. So not to say that it would be a luxury and an honor to have these buildings last for centuries, but we try to make something that will. sort of stand the test of time potentially.
I love that. So the conversation is not so much like, oh, I'll be retiring in a few years, and my grandkids going to be keen. It's more much farther down the road. It's like what it's going to look like decades from now.
We try to have, I mean, we have to have both. They're paying for it, so we
Yeah,
have to sort of make it work for them.
yeah.
But it is both, you know, and we try to instill that type of view that, you know, we have one project which that was instilled to us from a client years ago. We worked on this John Lautner house, Silvertop in Silver Lake, and the clients were very clear that they were the temporary stewards of that house. They wanted to restore that house. You know, we worked with Barbara Bester on that, and they were, you know, incredible. They were the right clients for that home because they knew they were here for a short time. They wanted this house to last way beyond their years. And they're there like as a temporary squatter gets to enjoy it and be there for a limited amount of time and putting the money into the house that will last beyond their years. And that was such a luxury to sort of view this important piece of architecture that was sort of created, you know, before I was born, and it will last after I die. You know, and I think that's it's an important aspect to what we do because so many people are like building, they want to build quick and fast and get it done and get in there, but these buildings might be around for a long time, and so I feel like it's important to take others into consideration of what you're putting on the earth, you know, and other people have to occupy and hopefully caretake.
This is a question I want to see. Perhaps you might have an interesting insight for me. Often, residential homes are very much an investment opportunity for a lot of the owners. It doesn't matter if you have multiple homes. The intention is that it is a big chunk of a wealth and capital
Yeah.
being seen as a property. So that might limit it at perhaps the opportunity to be more creative or be more artistic, things that perhaps previous generation architects in the 50s and the 60s were able to really go out loud and come up with some iconic houses that you just mentioned there. Today, a little bit less likely, not only because taste wise, but because it's become too much of a niche. The resale value, the interesting for the next buyer. Do you feel that most of the luxury or the artistic vision we see today is more in the interior aspect of the house, not so much in the architectural level, or it's a combination of both, or depend on the client? What are you seeing right now?
Um, I think you know, again, we have this like limited view because we only sort of get to work on so many things, but we see
Mhm.
all of it. We have clients that definitely focus and look on the financial investment of what they're putting into this home and are they going to be able to get out of it. And some of these things are very expensive, you know, and there's limits of what they're willing to sort of spend,
Yeah.
and to your point of like how far they're going to push something and the creative sort of aspects. And we've had clients that are very cut and dry, that are non-emotional, that are just like, that's it. I'm not gonna spend another dime. I don't care. There's not an outlet in the pantry for a toaster, you know, or whatever it is. They're like just done. And we're like, what? You need an outlet there. So we do see aspects of that. Um, and we see the polar opposite as well. Like we're working on some homes that are sort of swan songs for people, something that they've
Mm.
always dreamed of doing. And not that money's no object, but they are willing to go that extra mile and spend the extra money to make something extraordinary. And things are expensive. Like it's just we're constantly shocked to actually make something exceptional that's
Yeah.
crafted, that's well crafted, that really takes artisans to make. Whether it's interior architecture, exterior architecture, but um, labor, everything's expensive. But to do something that actually is uh, very well thought out and sort of beautifully executed with a certain amount of materiality may cost 3 times as much of a normal house. And I shouldn't say even a normal house, of a high-end house. So something that you
Mhm.
think might cost $800 a square foot, maybe $1,000. Let's just say $800 a square foot. Might cost $2,400 a square foot to do it extraordinarily well. And which is shocking because it's just like LA used to be cheap. And that's not just LA, that is sort of worldwide. But I will say, like, LA for years was like really affordable. You could build stuff, like, wasn't that expensive. Um, but we're getting the opportunity, or we have the opportunity to build some really beautiful things and collaborate with great architects. Um, and any time that we sort of color outside the box, we're doing something that's um, something that's really crafted that brings in a lot of materiality. It just becomes threefold. It just does. And we try to be very upfront with clients. We don't like surprises. We try to sort
Mhm.
of be the naysayer that, like, look, this is going to, you know, we. It's not that we want to scare them, but we don't want to sort of seduce them slowly. But time and time again, things are so much more expensive than what clients originally sort of imagined them to be.
You mentioned that some of those houses are taking 5 to 6 years to be ready, some of those projects. So you spend so much time with the clients, but also your team. At the end of a project like this, do you feel closer to the client or to yourself?
Hmm. Um, well, I mean, we do become much closer to the clients. I mean, the uh, uh, what's been so lovely, like I have a meeting after today, and with a client, and I think I should look, but it's year 6 or 7. We're doing like phase 2, and a European client that we don't get to see that much. And what's been so remarkable and enjoyable is that we, for our project teams, we like everybody to have exposure to the clients, even the interns, whenever possible. It's not always possible, but whenever possible. But this client in particular, she knows everybody on the team, all the interns, all the junior designers, senior designers, so many of the trades people, like all these people that sort of um, help realize this sort of dream of theirs. And that's been so enjoyable to watch those relationships evolve, because sometimes, like, I'm not even around, and the clients are dealing with all the team members and whatever, and it's that type of trust and long-term relationship that I feel is great for everybody. It's great for them. It's great for everybody on our team. You get a certain amount of ownership. Everybody, to have an intern actually interact with the client on a first name basis, feel trusted. Then we get these like long term relationships in our office where it feels meaningful. They're not just sort of like in a library, sort of filing away things. Um, so I think that's one of the benefits to work with people for a very long period of time. I will say, what's shocking though, sometimes we calculate how old am I going to be when this project is done, and then I just like bury my head. I'm just like, oh my god, that's so crazy. Um,
How often do you find yourself discovering new things about you throughout the process of a project or throughout the process of, a year of managing 10 different projects around the world or so on? I mean, how often those emotions or those aha moments come to you and say, oh, maybe I didn't know that I had this on me. I didn't know this is something
hmm,
that it no longer bothers me. Perhaps it bothered me a few years ago. Like the evolution of Jamie throughout his career and
yeah.
how often that happens.
The one thing that's has been confronting is that as we've grown as an office, I don't, I don't have the ability to get involved with everything,
Hmm.
which is sort of a blessing and a curse. Yeah, I suppose. I'm a control freak, like a lot of people are, but that's one aspect that's been very confronting personally for me because I want, when your name's on the door and you're responsible for everything, you uh, I don't know, is that like dishwasher drawer the right location, in the guest house, like should have been closer to this bigger sink. I don't know. You sort of, and I try not to micromanage. We have great people in the office, but it is something that has been confronting for me personally as far as the appetite to grow and sort of to have a bigger studio and to sort of take on bigger projects sometimes has a cost. And so I do ask myself, like, would it be better to be smaller so I can be involved with like every nook and cranny of every building? And there may be a time where we do that, where we contract, where I could have a little more of an artistic sort of smaller firm that just does a few things a year, where I get involved with everything and maybe everything. Maybe they're smaller projects or more extraordinary sort of properties or something. But but it's hard because then you can't do certain things. We're able to take on a certain scale of projects because we have enough people. So, but I think that's been challenging for me personally, and also
Hmm.
I'm finding as I've grown, I touched on this before, but like I'm much more interested in a diverse aesthetic of things where uh, I like history and I like design history and and I like sort of pushing the boundaries. So I feel like the I've been discovering that to stay in one lane is sort of pathological to me. Like I'll sort of just wither up and die to sort of do the same thing over and over. And I respect certain people. You look like somebody like Richard Meyer, who has a very distinct aesthetic. You know exactly every building that he ever does. Not that I'm doing architecture like in any realm of that, but that's a good example of somebody that has a distinct style. Um, and they refine that and sort of manipulate that and play within those bounds of what works. I realize I'm the polar opposite, where like I want to learn and I want to do things I've never done before, and so that's I think what feeds me. And we try to take on things like even we take on projects where we do lose money. Then we have to take on projects where we make money to pay for those projects that lose money, but we take on those projects because they're passion projects. We know we're like sort of maybe going to lose our shirt or our fees are going to run out, but it allows us to be more creative. So, and that's I'm going off on a tangent, but that is an aspect of our firm that that it's part of our DNA where we have bread and butter projects where they pay the bills and like we do a really nice job, but it allows us to take projects that we we may sort of where we push the limits and we may not we might lose money or it's not profitable, but it lets us do sort of certain extraordinary things we might not normally be able to do.
But that's so exciting because for me, from watching from outside in, I can just remember like you actually took the CDA for product design, what,
Hmm.
7 years ago, 6 years
A
ago,
while ago,
something
yeah.
that perhaps you're not fully known for. And I remember when you were accepted, you said, I'll never be able to make this piece again. It's too expensive.
Yeah, I know. I don't own one of
you know?
those. I can't afford
Yeah.
that. I know.
It was funny. But going back to that nature that you said, like really curiosity to be able to try different things, to be able to explore, to chase for something different and learn and all of that element that I think has been able to take advantage in a career, and you have the opportunity to do those things, and why not,
Yeah.
right? Take it a shot at it, and it allowed those things to surprise you, which that one clearly did, I think. And it was phenomenal. But I
Hmm.
want to ask something about success, which is an interesting question. I try to have this conversation with a lot of people. Does success makes you bolder or more careful?
Hmm. Um, I think bolder. Uh, I find as I've gotten older now, like I'm older than a lot of our clients, which is strange. Like, and like I'm the oldest person in our office. It's like such a strange thing as one gets older, the tables flip, and I'm like that old man in the corner that sort of like doesn't know what that intern's talking about. But but I find that I care less. I feel like I'm more daring as I get older because I feel that I have, I don't know, some enough water under the bridge. We've done enough things. I, I feel very comfortable going out on a limb and challenging a client um, and in a playful way. Like I feel comfortable. You know, we work for all these different people, and some are like, you know, fantastically wealthy or famous or all these things. I don't. It doesn't matter. Like I don't care. I'm not phased by those things. We really treat everybody the same, or we try to. And so I feel that I like to take bigger risks now. One, two, because like sometimes we do things on projects and they don't work, and we end up having to pay for them. um, and um, and if we have enough financial sort of stability, and I'm not talking crazy things, but you know, we pay for stuff all the time. I don't I don't like to talk about that or want to sort of flaunt that, but like, you know, we try something, it might not work. And so it's not right for us to put that on the client because we push them into that. So then we have to
Mm.
fix it. We're doing that on a project right now, and I'm happy to do it because they gave us the opportunity to try something and it didn't work. But I'd rather push things and experiment and then have a little backup where like we're responsible for those mistakes and we take ownership of that versus staying safe versus being like, okay, well, let's just go this way because it'll look fine and that's what they want, and but it's mediocre. And that's a luxury, but we sort of built the firm in a way where we have some financial backup to sort of experiment. And then it allowed, like, we're doing this small loft downtown, but it's a jewel box, and the clients really allowed us to sort of go for this, which a lot of people would not do. It's a really great client, and but not everything worked out. You know, most things worked out, and I'm thrilled, but some things didn't, and so we got to fix it. And we have to, you know, and we look at these long-term relationships where like at the end of the day the place could look amazing, but if the client's not happy, then it's not a success. So we to have a successful project, we need a happy client with something that's meaningful and visually sort of interesting and dynamic. So yeah, so I think I've gotten more courageous, and it gets me in trouble sometimes. I don't know, like, you know, we push things. My office freaks out because I'm like throwing a wrench into stuff or something, but I think it keeps everybody on their toes and it keeps us fresh and doing different things. So
Before we start recording today, you were talking a little bit about your father and
mm,
everything else. And early on, you said how you had a very interesting, creative upbringing with all your family and your surrounding. Have you have the opportunity to connect with him and hear from him how perhaps proud and how
mm.
excited he is about the life that you were able to build?
um, you know, he's an interesting guy. His name's Ronald, um, and he's not. My father's 92 now, knock on wood, and and who's a very interesting character. He wanted to be a farmer. We our family had dairy farms on Long Island, and he went to ag school at Cornell, all set to be a farmer. His Jewish mother would not let him be a farmer because all the farmers in our family died young. They would just like work to death and they die young. So he ended up going into real estate, and but but as kids, and we always farmed. We always had a farm. we always were on the tractors, and we had gardens and lots of animals and things. So, and he really does consider himself a farmer. And the reason why I bring that up is that he's a very creative individual that like has this creative background. He has this incredible farm museum of antique trucks and tractors on Long Island with tens of thousands of farm implements and machinery. It's sort of fantastic. But he is proud of me and things that we've done, but he's sort of a man of like, I don't know, few words. And I remember
Hmm.
we were on the AD 100 for a couple of years and then we fell off. And he's like, "What happened? What did you do?" I was like,
Who
"I
did you
don't know."
piss off?
I know. I was like, "I don't know. We just didn't like. I don't know. We fell off the list." And so it was more like the accepted sort of adoration of like, you made this sort of milestone, but then like, what the hell? Like, why'd you fall off the list? That always stuck with me. I was like, oh Jesus, like, we didn't do anything. But no, I think they're proud of me. But they're my parents both luckily are still around, and but they're interesting people. They're very proud, but they um titles or sort of awards that they value all of that, but they also they they value the work. It's fun to take them to projects. Like, and my parents are super active. My mom's 90, still working. My dad's 92, still working. But they're interesting people, and they love design and architecture, and so we get to take them to projects, and it's just so rewarding to actually, I don't know, be able to take my family, and my sister comes, and like to things that we've worked on for years, and a lot of things are not that accessible. But we try to bring them to all these projects, and it's super fun. It's much more rewarding because, like, I don't know, I feel like they're in a different world. They're in New York, and we're over here, and we don't get to see each other all the time. So, yeah, it's good.
Now, what's the best compliment you ever got? It can be career wise, personally wise, something that just resonated with you at one point in your life and you still hold on to it.
Um, this is the truth. I think the best compliment that I've gotten, and I've actually gotten this from a couple different people, that some potential clients and some, I guess they were all potential clients, have told me they copied rooms that we did, like literally. And 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 I was like shocked. I was like, "What? Like you copied and they showed me, and they were embarrassed, but either they felt like they couldn't afford us, or like they just gave it to their designer to have them copy or something. But I was shocked. Like this has happened multiple times where they literally would take images out of a magazine and replicate those spaces. And but I feel like that's like so flattering. It seems weird. Like, who would do that? Like, it just makes no sense to me because it's like every space is different. But I don't know. It's sort of, it was shocking to me that, and I wasn't upset at all. I felt it was the biggest form of flattery to like copy something that we did because they loved it so much. But it's very strange to see like your work copied in sort of some bastardized version. I don't know. It's so weird.
uh, Jen, before I let you go, three questions I ask everybody. And I want you to recommend us a few things, okay? I want you to recommend us a book. It can be all-time favorite or perhaps something you read recently. Recommend us something to watch, a movie, TV show, documentary, you call it, you name it. And our next guest, who do you think we should have here next?
Hmm. So, a book that I love, that's still very dear to me, that I still go back to. It's this book that was given to me, and we studied actually in college. It's called Invisible Cities. It's by Italo Calvino, and it's this sort of mystical, dreamy sort of utopian version of these made up cities. That it's a very small book that really is like this architectural fantasy dream of these made up places. That's so poetic and heartfelt. So that's something, it's one of those books that I give every once in a while to somebody, especially it's sort of a young person that might not have read this, that to me had a big impact. I read it when I was studying in Italy. I was studying architecture in Italy, and it was just uh, really a poem about the love of sort of design and cities. Um, Sorry, what was the second question?
Something to watch,
Oh,
TV
right.
show, movie. Yeah.
Hmm. The I, one of my favorite shows over the past couple of years, I have to say, is The Diplomat with Carrie Russell. I love sort of political thrillers and things like that, but I find the the I'm always amazed at writers that have such a strong knowledge of how the inner workings of whether it be government or business or industries operate and can sort of create sort of a very believable structure and know the terminology and sort of like the inner workings of that, which is like not their world. But I find that series thrilling, and I get upset when that's done. Um, and I think somebody else that you should sort of interview. I think you should interview Max Lamb.
Yeah.
Max Lamb, the designer. He's a
Mhm.
designer, if people don't know, out of London, who I think is sort of one of the most extraordinary sort of contemporary voices of design today. I think he has such a great story. I think everything that he creates, I'm sort of amazed with. I feel like I'm such a tough critic I'll like something that somebody does, but not the other things. And I think he's such a deep thinker and somebody that's so creative that still works with his hands and is figuring things out as he goes and using different methods and methodologies and is always challenging himself and doing something new. So that's my vote.
Lovely. I love it. I love Jen. I've been looking forward to our chat for a few
Mm,
weeks now since I saw it on the calendar. I knew it was going to be a good one. We're
it's
going to
so
be able to
nice.
chat, and I'm sure we can carry this on for many, many more minutes to come. But as you mentioned earlier, you have meetings to
I
take
do
care of
indeed.
it, things to do. And I want to thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Now, last few years, we have crossed paths here and there a couple times.
Yeah, I'd love that. Yeah. Thank you so much for thinking of me. Yeah.